safe. So if we can create a safe environment, and what's one way to create a safe environment? Well, to do those tier 1 circles. And even if it's the only safe place that student has in their life, it's incumbent upon us to do that. And students are not stupid. They know how to code switch to be safe and then to be vulnerable and then not vulnerable. They know where they can go. But they want to do that. You saw it happen with Cedric in that video. Okay? So if you have a safe place to begin to practice and engage your social emotional skills, then you will then be able to access the executive functioning part of your brain, the part that organizes, plans. This is what you need to learn. You can't access this. You can't go from here to here. You have to build these social emotional skills to be able to access this. And the executive functioning is what you need to cite evidence from a text and argue persuasively your perspective to another. I mean, imagine trying to do that when you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode. It's just not going to happen. But if you feel safe and you've activated your executive functioning, then you're going to be able to cite a paragraph or a line from a book and be able to argue your point of view. You're going to begin to be able to do that. And so the Common Core standards are rigorous. And many of our students come to school in that fight, flight, or freeze, and there's no way they're going to be able to hit those standards. So is this clear to everybody? I think this is really important. Really important. So this is why we have our restorative justice is a trauma-informed practice. Okay? Here's some benefits that we found. Just let you read that. Now, many of our schools that are doing restorative justice have been able to bring down suspensions, and many have even been able to bring down their disproportionate discipline of African American students. But district-wide, we're still struggling with disproportionality. We brought our suspensions way down, but our disproportionate discipline of African American students it's pretty level. So we really need to work harder to do that. And restorative justice is one of our strategies to do that. We also use PBIS, trauma-informed practices, and culturally responsive practices. We have an African American male achievement department here, and they have manhood development classes and other things. So this is something, this graphic here, I actually pulled from the New Zealand Ministry of Education. And it's based on something that was developed in the 60s here in the United States for, I think, for like the parole board or something. But it's a graph that that has a y-axis and an x-axis, and it's the range of response for any particular incident. So in any kind of incident, we depending on how we're feeling in the moment, our perspective, we're gonna sort of respond with one of these sort of quadrants. So we're either gonna do for a student, we're gonna neglect a student, we'll be punitive or do to, or work with. And so doing for a student would be characterized as, I can tell you're having a hard time, let me do that for you. Or, don't worry that she hit you, she's just tired, or, just making excuses for people. It's not helpful for them. And these quadrants, the x-axis here is characterized as nurturing, paternalistic, building relationships with, okay? And the y-axis is your systems, your expectations, your limits, okay? So if you were to be in this not quadrant, it would be characterized as low support, low empathy, and low systems, basically no systems, and you're just trying not to see that. Kids are sort of in the playground fighting, and you're just like, I'm just gonna pretend I'm not seeing that right now. Okay? And then punitive. What's an example of a punitive response in a school? Suspension. Yeah, so suspension is a tool that needs to be used sometimes, but it is punitive. It's I'm doing to you. You don't really have a say. I'm doing to you. And that would be characterized as really having high systems. You've got a system and it's suspension, but very little support because you're doing two, you're not working with. So the restorative justice would be, or the restorative practice would be working with. Okay, not doing for, but working with. And this is predicated upon the fact that you have a relationship with that person, with that young person. So that's why it's so important to build relationships. Because a conversation with a young person that you know is going to go a lot differently than if you don't know them. Because why would they trust you? Why would they even think that you would listen? Because they're used to adults not listening. And so the other thing the reason I wrote culture and climate here is because people throw those words around, culture and climate. We need culture and climate. But what does it really mean? And so for me, culture in your classrooms are the rituals, the traditions that you follow, that you set up in your classroom. Could be a circle every Friday or every other Wednesday or whatever, okay? It's greeting people. I will greet you at the door every time you come in and I will welcome you. Whatever the rituals that you set up, that's your culture. And it could be in a classroom or the school. And then your climate is how it feels. You can have a negative culture. So how's the climate? Is it based in relationships? Is there empathy? Is there listening? So a solid culture and a climate would be one where there's this and this. Now, sometimes people that sort of misunderstand RJ or don't quite get it think all it is this. Because it is very empathic, but that's not true. You have to have this as a jumping off point. And so this is where PBIS, I think, comes in, or some other form of classroom management. And people wonder, I was having a conversation earlier, people wonder where's the connection. One of the connections with PBIS and restorative justice, PBIS being positive behavior intervention supports, another multi-tiered framework, is that it's helpful in building these systems and these expectations and these limits. It can be. And this is where solid classroom management is. A teacher can't do RJ and expect it to be their classroom management system. It's not. It'll help their already existing classroom management system. It'll help them be able to do it in a more inclusive manner. So is this any questions on this? Because it's a little convoluted. I know there's a lot of colors and words on there, arrows and things. These are, I want to, it's helpful to have some context about restorative justice, what it is. I told you about the origins of it. But philosophically, these are sort of the foundational principles. So can I have someone read the first one for me, loud and proud?
There is simply no substitute for the personal. Building respectful relationships is foundational and a vital outcome of the process.
Second one.
Nothing about us without us. Opportunity for equitable dialogue is created. Those impacted feel welcome and safe to speak.
Mm-hmm. Third.
I'm willing to do this. Participation is voluntary.
So you can't be forced to do restorative justice. That's why I'm so glad that you guys all of you voluntarily came here today, and you hopefully weren't made to come here. But restorative justice is voluntary. You're not going to bring someone who's harmed another person together with the person they've harmed if they're not going to be accountable for what they've done. It's just not going to. You're going to do more harm. And fourth one?
If crime hurts, justice should heal. The focus is on repairing harm if it has occurred, and all take responsibility for their part in bringing about the harm.
Okay, and the last one?
This can work. I can live with it. Agreements are made collectively.
And this is just another way of saying it's a consensual decision-making process. We make decisions by consensus, which by the way, does not have to be difficult. I think consensus has a bad rap to it. A lot of people think it can take forever, but when done correctly, it's actually a very viable decision-making process.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Maybe this is, or maybe you're going to get to this, but when you have two students and one of them feels wronged and one of them wants justice, they feel like you stole my phone, you broke my phone, you did something. So the restoration process will, because that's one of the problems, he was in this group and he jumped me and I got hurt and I'm never gonna forgive him, kind of those.
Yeah.
How does that play out in the end result?
Well, so you wouldn't just bring those two students together. You would do prep work with each student and other affected people if there are other people, and you would determine whether it's appropriate to bring them together in a circle.
I could bring them together. Getting one of them to accept the restoration is the challenge. If one of them feels wronged, I work with a very strong cultural group, and if they feel wronged, it's a pride thing.
Right, and so the other person who's harmed them, if they are willing to be accountable for what they've done and make it right to them.
So I guess it goes back to that it's voluntary. So they have
Yeah.
to be willing.
If you meet with the person who's done the harm and they admit to what they had done and they say, it's my bad, I'm going to make it right, I'm going to do right by him or her or whatever, then and the person who's been harmed is going to meet face to face with the person, they know that they're going to do that, then you would bring them together. And that takes prep work. It also takes a culture shift because people have to understand the process. When you first bring it to a school, it's dissonant and confusing, and some people are getting punitive and some people are getting restorative and like, what's going on here? But that's what the beginning of a revolution really looks like. And so once people get the process, once they become empowered by it and participate in it, they will understand this is actually a gift to me. It's a gift to be able to make something right, because you get to move through the shame of having done it to the other side of having to be able to do something about it. Whereas in our culture, our punitive culture, we make people sit in shame, sometimes for 25, 30, 40, 50 years in prison. And so to be able to do something about what you've done wrong is a gift. It's a gift. And so that's the culture shift, though. It can take years for a school to even get to a place like that.
Yeah, it's not the school, it's the kids. Like I sat in a circle, didn't fully realize how much it was this until I'm here. And there's several instances where one, the girl felt like he had been inappropriate sexually to her verbally. And she was just like, no, you said it, you did it. And she was very unforgiving. And so I was just wondering how to cross that bridge.
That's where, and this will be the last thing I say about it, so we can move on, but I'll say that's where the prep work is key.
Okay.
You're gonna prep, and you're gonna be, she will understand, if it's gonna happen, she will understand that this process is a process where this person will hear about how what he did impacted you. He will understand how what he did impacted himself and the community, and you're gonna come up with a plan, and he's gonna do right by you. He's gonna make it right if that's possible. Is that something you're willing to do? You're willing to sit there, and I mean, something like that. You may not want to sit there with the person who said that to you or did something. That's, you have to determine during prep whether it's appropriate or not. It might need separate individual circles for support. Yeah, sexual violence is something some people are doing using restorative justice for, but it's not something you go lightly into. Yeah. What time we got here? 12:12. Here's a little light. Does everybody get this? Because I showed this to someone the other day. They're like, I don't get it. It says little balls blowing. So I think what we'll do is, here's two of our students from Roots Middle School. I think Roots, maybe Bret Hart. But I think what we'll do is we'll break for lunch right now. And then after, we'll have, I think, half an hour, right, Lenita, for lunch?
Half an hour for lunch.
You guys network, do what you do, and then we'll come back and we'll have our lovely panel of.
Just give us a minute, we'll, you want us to ask you
Okay, you can turn the lights on.
Restrooms are out the door and to your right, and the code for the ladies is 6111, and for the men's room it's 6222.